Hi, welcome back to Gathering Grounds Gaming, and in this video we're going to do an elevated tower and wall build. See you after this. So welcome back, and so today we're going to revisit elevated terrain. So it follows on from the last video I did last week, so if you haven't seen that, check out the video above. It should appear above, and I'm going to be putting these into a playlist. And basically what we're doing is we're looking at types of terrain you can put on your table to just basically create some elevated terrain to either fight on for your snipers or your archers to sort of stand on, and just to create a bit of interest for your table. So last week we did a really good build around ruins with some steps, and this week we're going to look at like a castle wall with a tower, with some really good places to sort of put your miniatures, and a wall to fight on or a wall to shoot on. Yeah, it's just going to be really interesting, a little bit different from last week, but it's going to be following the same theme for elevated terrain. So we'll call this castle wall. So as normal, there's a couple of points that I really want to include. So I want to have a tower wall. So the wall will be sort of like, you know, a good sort of size, so miniatures have to sort of climb up it. 3 elevated positions, and like before I want it to be playable below. So I really like the idea of it, you being able to play on the piece but around the bottom of the piece, as well as on top of the piece. I think we need to start with is like the tower itself. So I think we'll have the tower, I want it to sort of be sort of crumbled on one side, so for a couple of reasons. So first of all, so you can access the miniatures, but second of all, it just creates a nice aesthetic. And we'll have sort of like some windows sort of which are ruined in there as well, like we did with the last one. I think it gives it a nice aesthetic. And we'll have a door at the front. So what I was thinking though is, like, this is sort of like inside. You can have you can't play on the first floor, on the bottom floor. So we'll create a bit of we'll have a little bit of foam to sort of raise that up. We'll have a doorway here, and then we'll have the wall for the castle wall. Done it completely wrong. But then we're going to have the castle wall completely sort of broken. We'll have like stone, just like normal stonework. Okay. And then what we'll do is, I really think it'd be good to have like a floor up here, another floor here. And they can be sort of like wood platforms. We'll have it on like I'd like to have it on like a base, like a quite large base again, so you can be playable. And you can have sort of like stones here that have fallen off the wall, and then we'll have like a castle wall here. So it gives you the idea that archers can kind of hide behind it. So you can have archers sort of here, archers here, but none of this, you won't be able to play on the bottom floor. So I was thinking it could be sort of like, you can have a floor here, again, timber. You can't play inside this bit. So yeah, so that's what I'm thinking. We've got a tower and our wall, so we've done that. At least 3 elevations. So we've got 1 up here, 2 here, and we've got the 1 on the wall as well. So that's your 3, and it's going to be nice and playable below. What I like about this is you could quite easily do this twice if you want to create like a bigger castle, or you can, when you cut away this bit of wall, you can then have a little bit of scattered terrain with a bit of ruined wall. Gives you a little bit of flavour. But yeah, so that's what I'm thinking of. So yeah, what I'll do is I'll get the hot wire cutter out and we'll crack on with that. So the first thing I'm going to do is on my Procton cutter, I'm just going to cut out the base and roughly cut out the sides that will make the tower. And I'll make sure it all fits together. So I've just basically pieced it all together just for now, showing where the cuts are going to be. And then I'm going to add some buttresses to the side of the walls for the tower. This just helps it seem a little bit more seamless when it all goes together. You don't have to do this, but this is what I've chosen to do with this piece. I'm literally just cutting those pieces off. There's a jig that I use from Shifting Lands, but you can look up what buttresses look like to get the shape if you need to. And then I am cutting in the brickwork, just normal brickwork like I normally do on my other pieces. And it's quite easy then to cut that away to make it look ruined. I've also cut in the place for a door. I was going to do a resin door, but actually I decided later on that I'm going to just put a wooden door with a framework around it. But I'll cover that a bit later. And I'm now just cutting in literally in the stones, and I'll go in later and sort of cut those in a little bit more with a pencil just to make sure the indentations are there to take paint later. There you go, it's me just opening up the gaps for the brickwork. You have to excuse my breakfast in the shot. Early start. Now I'm literally just dry fitting the pieces together to make sure that they go around the base. As I say, the big piece of foam in the middle is going to be like the ground floor, so you're not going to be able to use the ground floor. I've sort of done that just to create the floor above, so you can play on the floor above. And I'm just literally I'm just hot gluing this all down together. Goes together pretty quick. You can use PVA and pin it, but just for speed I'm going to use some hot glue just so I can move on to the next step. And then I'm going to glue the buttresses. So on 2 of the pieces I cut the buttresses in and then I cut them off to glue on after, and that creates the like the hidden sort of seam between the two walls. If you want to know a little bit more on this, Microforge Minis do a really good video about how to create buttresses, and I'll try and link it in the description below. Here I realise I've slightly undercut one of the walls, so I'm literally just ruining the wall next to it just so it sort of goes together, but actually when you painted it you don't even notice it, it looks part of the ruin. And now what I'm doing is, like I said, I'm actually just ruining this wall, so just cutting some of the bricks away. What I'm trying to make sure that I show you is actually making sure you've got enough space to put your hands in to get the minis out. And I'm literally just cutting in some windows as I go, and again they'll be ruined as well. Again, Shifting Lands jigs for these, you can buy those online, but they're really, really good, really handy. And now I'm just dry fitting the wall to make sure that the door works, and I'm using a wood effect roller on just a piece of foam to create the floor for the ground for the first floor, and I'll slot that in later, but it comes up really nice. Again, these are from Green Stuff World, really handy little rolling pins, and that slides in nicely there and marries up quite nicely with the door. And when you put the other wall on, you can get your things in there. And I'm just doing the same brickwork, but I'm just doing it with the wall instead. Again, just opening up the cuts with a pencil. Now I'm literally going to just cut away a section of the wall with my handheld hot wire cutter. Again, these handheld hot wire cutters are really good. They're about sort of £6 or £7. Well, I've got mine a little bit more expensive, but I started off with a quite a cheap one, and that actually did a really good job. And this just cuts through that foam so easy and gives you that shape, and then it gives you a nice breakaway there. And like I said earlier, you can use this offcut to create a little bit of scatter terrain afterwards. I don't do it in this video, but I will go and do that. Now, I've realised that I've put my buttresses on the wrong way around, which is a bit of a pain because I can't then glue it to the building, but I do go back and fix it afterwards. So yeah, I was trying to be fast, but I should have slowed down to look what I was doing. And here, I'm going to not do brickwork on top of the wall. I'm actually going to do like a tile pattern. So again, you just draw randomized lines along and at different widths, and then you just cut what you'd look like paving slabs. So like really random, different sizes, different places, and it actually looks really good when it's all painted. It looks like it's not so uniform as like the wall bricks. It's just very random, which, as I say, on my other pieces I've done it as well. And it does look really good when it's done. And there you see, it's you just sort of drawing the lines back in with a pencil, and you can start to see where the pattern appears. And there you go, that's what it looks like. So I've pinned the wall where the buttress was done incorrectly, and now I'm just going to dry fit the actual wall against the doorway, and it seems to fit perfectly, so you can get your minis from the wall into the tower. And now I'm actually gonna cut some the elevated floors into the tower. But what I've decided is I'm actually going to make the tower a bit taller. It felt a little bit short, so I'm going to start with my top floor, so I can then add some bricks in later just to bring it up by one more floor. Then I'll add a floor in below. So I'm just literally marking out where the edges of the tower are, and I can then just cut it in afterwards. So there you go, that will sit on top, and I'll just cut some of the edges out where the bricks are going to sit. And I've got the floor underneath. I'm sort of alternating the edges where the floors are going to sit, so you can actually get your fingers in to pick up your minis. I'll show you that a bit more detail afterwards, but just so you don't get stuck when you're trying to put a mini in, or a mini gets stuck against the floor above. There you go, you can see I've cut away, so the edge where the bricks can still sit, but you can still access your minis on the top and on the bottom. And I'll put the bricks around the edges to continue the wall. There you
It's only going to be 1 brick higher, but it does make a difference. And that's the that's the build so far.
So if you're enjoying this content so far, I'd love it if you could maybe like the video, subscribe to my channel if this is the types of videos you'd like to watch, and share it with any friends that you think would also enjoy the video. Other ways to support me, you can follow me on Instagram. I put lots of updates on there. You can, if you like some of the things I'm building but you don't have time to make them yourself, I also have an Etsy shop which goes by the same name, Gathering Grounds Gaming, and I sell some of my pieces on there, and I have a few sort of bits and pieces that I sell. Everything's handmade, everything's made to order. If you also want to support me in other ways, you can head across to Patreon. It starts at £3 a month. Again, you get lots of updates. You get behind the scenes videos when I get time to make them, and you get access to the Discord, which has a group just for people that follow me through Patreon. Any of those ways would be great to support me. But as I say, just being here, sharing, subscribing and liking these videos is really good help. So thanks very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the video.
So here I'm just adding some lengths of timber just to create the floors, and then I'll paint those and dry brush those in later. And I'll do this to all of the different floors throughout the building. With this, just feel free to use like PVA. You can use super glue if you want to do it a bit quicker. I literally just use PVA, and then I then cut the wooden struts down afterwards. So I glue them on and then cut them to size all in one go. Just means it's a bit quicker, and it avoids miscutting and wasting timber, as I've done in the past. Here we go. There's the floors done. Now I'm literally just going to add some of the brickwork on top of that just to create the wall. And there you go. So it's just adding that extra floor. I just think that extra bit of height just looks a little bit better than the lower height that I'd started with. And I'm literally just going to start painting the edges, because I use foam board for the basis of the floors. I'm just painting the edges of it brown, just to hide the edges of the foam board. You can cover the edges with some card if you want, but I just don't see the point after it's been painted. No, it looks good. You've got, as I say, you can access both levels from different angles. And now I'm literally going to add that base. So as you can see, I've added a nice amount extra than I need, so it allows me to make it playable. And this is the door. So I added an MDF door and then just carved the brickwork around it out of some foam. I think it looks better than what I'd planned to use, which was resin. Just a little bit more complicated and took a little bit more time than I wanted to spend. Now I'm just going to add some individual, just some stone bricks, just to show that where the wall's fallen away. Just adds, again, you can pile them up to add a little bit more, or a bit more piles to sort of for miniatures to hide behind. It also just adds to the effect that the wall's collapsed, and maybe people have moved the big large stones to one side, or they've just fallen as it's broken. Don't need many, just a handful. Now I'm building up the stones. I'm actually going to use clear fix here, just straight out of the tube. This is like just a clear silicone or adhesive, and it's actually quite quick to sort of dry after you've sort of done it, so it's quite easy to work with. I'm just going to squirt some layers of it, and then I'm just going to lay some of the bricks on top, and then add a little bit more as I go. I'm just going to dot a little bit around the base as well, just to push some in. I'm just going to create, like, just initially, just going to dot some around. Some are going to look like they're still intact, but some are going to look like they've actually started to collapse. And I'm just going to build this up just to cover that foam underneath. so it looks more like stones that have fallen off rather than just like a solid block of foam. And when I've done that, I'm going to add just a bit more, and then I can just build it up. And here I'm just piling them up and dotting some around the base at the same time. And literally just keep doing it until you're happy with the amount you've got on there. And this is one of those areas where it can be as much or as little as you want. There you go. Now I'm going to just add the wall, basically the retaining wall on top of the large sort of castle wall. So when you're sort of standing on it, you don't fall off. But again, this is it's basically just a 3-inch wide piece of foam, a 2-inch wide piece of foam, which I'm then going to create like a little bevel on one side, and then I'm just going to do, as you can see here, I'm going to just do the stones that sort of stick up, just by cutting every other centimetre out to create like a square. It's just a matter of gluing it on. It's a good, nice little effect. Gives you that sort of castle effect, like a lot of castles have. Super simple techniques, and I'm using a ruler here just so I don't cut too much out. And then you literally just pull them out. And there you go. And then I'm literally just going to stick that on with some hot glue. There we go, it's done. Breaking it away at the end so it's collapsed just like the wall has. And this is a nice thing for your archers to hide behind. Now I'm literally just testing out with a miniature. Always good to have a miniature nearby, like I always say, just so you can test it out, just to make sure there's enough space. Just want enough space for miniatures to stand but also fight on. So on this wall you can fit 3 miniatures next to each other, so you can have a good battle on there if you need to. And now I'm literally getting basically just normal household filler mixed with PVA and brown paint with a bit of black paint to darken it out. I'm just covering the whole of the base around with this, just to cover that MDF and to give it a nice brown texture to start with before I then flock it and base ready it. But you can also use this mixture just to fill any little gaps. So there's quite a few gaps knocking about. If you use this to fill them gaps, when you paint it, the gaps will just disappear. But this is a really good basis for that. There, I've got one there where that gap, I've got a gap down the side there. I'm literally just going to post some of that in, smooth it out. You literally won't see that once it's all painted. So now I'm going to start having a look at some texturing. So I wanted to add some textures in amongst the rocks. So I'm just going to post some PVA in, and I'm just going to use some aquatic stones, like really small stones. And once these are painted, they'll just look like little bits of stone that are breaking away. So it just adds a bit of texture to it before I start painting. And I do it along the wall as well. I don't do lots, but just enough to fill the gaps. It's all just about building it up. So big stones, and then filling the gaps in with the small stones. And then I'm going to come in as well on top of that with some sand. It's just about hiding that foam. There we go. So now I'm just gonna, now that's dry, I'm gonna cover it all with a base coat of like a dark grey. I could start with black, but actually I think I wanted to start with dark grey just for timings. But actually this darkens out really nicely. So just covering all the foam up, all the stones, basically covering the whole castle, not the base because that will be brown. There we go. So now I'm just going to go in and do some dry brushing. So basically with this, I'm going to do I do a medium grey like I've got here, which will darken out, and then I'm going to do come back in with a light grey, and then a little bit of either white or cream. But I'm going to go with white on this, but you can go with cream if you want it to be a little bit warmer. And as you can see, that it just starts to pick out the stones. It looks maybe a little bit light at the moment, but I am going to come in with a brown wash, which will just murk it all out, and you'll see it creates a really good effect. And if you watch some of my other videos, you'll know this step. Just go over all of it. Don't have too much paint on your brush, just enough to create, to highlight things. And then I'm going to come in with like a mid brown, just to paint that door back in. And it's nice, it makes that sort of stand out. And this is the wash, so I'm just going to literally mix some sepia ink with some water, and I'm literally just going to cover the whole piece. And just I didn't show you, but I've also covered the floorboards in the tower in the same paint that I did the door. There we go. So it's very brown. It does look a bit weird when you first do it. Just cover the whole piece, and that will soak in, and when it dries it will the brown will sort of go into all the recesses, and then I will come back in with some light grey again and just dry brush it in again. And all the texture you've added, that will soak into the texture, so that texture will all stand out. So here we go. So it looks very brown at the moment, but it will, when it dries, it will sort of sink back in. So this is it dry. And now I'm just going to come back in with a dry brush. I'm just going to do like the mid grey. So just pop that back out, and there you can see it still looks quite dirty, as it would, because it's sat in the elements, but you've still got that really good dry brush on there. And that's it when it's done. Just going to come back in and just add a bit of white in there, just to pop out some of the stones and some of the edges. It's where I think it would just need a bit of extra highlighting. Some of these corners, and I will dry brush all the floors as well with a lighter brown, just to make them pop out. And then the next step will be flocking and the texturing. It's looking good so far. It's looking nice colouring in them, some nice sort of interest, a bit of variation, and actually it's fulfilling like the elevational pieces as well, with like the different floors, and actually you can have miniatures climbing up the stones. So these are the flocks I use. So we start with the green. This is a mixture of 4 different greens. It's like a light, a mid, with some highlighted green in there as well. And I'm going to basically just do all of the groundwork in there. And then I'm going to come in with some arid earth. This is some city rubble, and the bigger trays got some slate. So I'm going to texture on top of the wall on the floors, and I'm also going to add some texturing on the broken wall, and then just going to sort of sprinkle a little bit in and around some of the stones on the floor just to create a bit of interest. And this is Battle Zone Scatter, which has got some nice different colours in, which I'll do literally last. So it's just going to add some texture around, and I'm going to use it to some of the flocks and that just to cover some of the gaps I still think are just need hiding, and there's got a gap there. I'll use some of this here Woodland Scenics bushes, and I'll just sort of build that up around some of the little places I want to hide. And feel free to do that. That's what it's all about, is covering some of your mistakes with your flockings and stuff like that. So I've covered it all in PVA, and I'm going to start with the path from the door. I'm going to use Forest Path from Geek Gaming for this. And it's really nice. It's very fine. It's got little bits of flocking, and it just creates a nice path from the door. You don't have to do this. You can just do stones, but I just think it's nice because it creates it's very different from the rest of the stones, so it just creates that nice pathway. I do this on all of my pieces. And then I'm going to start adding all of the flock in, just all the way around. Feel free to sort of put it in all around the stones. Some of it can go on the path, because obviously, you know, grass would grow on the path and around some of the stones as well. So if you do drop a little bit on some of the big rocks, doesn't matter, because naturally grass would grow in and around that anyway. And also, if you want to put some on the castle wall and on some of the floors, that's also fine. It will look just as good. Just make sure that to do the edges of the base as well, the MDF base, just so you lose that MDF base all the way around. Now I'm just going to add some stones in onto the castle wall and down like where the castle is broken. So I'll use some arid earth. I'm just going to drop some over the grass as well, just because obviously stones and that would obviously be within the grass, so it just creates that nice effect. Just completely cover the wall. You can layer this up as well, so I use some arid earth, and then I use some chipped slate like I'm putting in here, and again that's bigger pieces. And I do the same on the floors inside the castle where they've been exposed to the elements. So that's all the stones in. As you can see, I've just created some nice sort of interest there, adding some stones along the grass, and then on the floors as well, and here as well. And now I'm going to add some Woodland Scenic bushes in. So big chunks of foam, green foam, and I'm just going to put them in some of the corners where bushes would naturally grow, but it also allows me just to hide that join that I don't like between the tower and the wall. I'm going to run the foam all the way up the side and up onto the wall, so it actually creates a nice bit of interest there, but it also hides that gap. Now I'm going to seal it all in. So this is isopropanol, and what this does, it breaks the tension of the all the flocks up. So when I add my matte varnish in, which is here, I'm basically going to use a poppet to sort of like just put it over. It breaks the water tension up, so the actual matte varnish goes all the way down to the bottom of the piece. Just spray this all over, and as you can see, literally just sort of dropping it all in, covering the whole piece, make it all, you know, soak it completely. And when it's dry, if you want to put an extra coat on, I sometimes put 2 or 3 coats on, depending on how big the piece is. And that's all of that dry. As you can see, all of the bushes have sort of dried in, so that's created a nice effect there, and around the other pieces as well, and all the stones. Now this is the last step, and this is static grass. So I've got quite a lot of different types of static grass, but for this one I'm going to use some medium coloured grass and some element element weed ones, so they're basically different, lots of different sizes, different lengths. I'll add these on the piece. And here's the finished piece. So I've got it here displayed with some just Lord of the Rings miniatures to show you the different levels. I'm super happy with it.
I really hope you enjoyed that video. What I loved about this piece is I've never really sort of done like large walls before, so just on pieces. I've never really had the need, and I've really enjoyed doing this. I love the way you've got, it creates them elevations, and I think you could probably go, even if you wanted to, you could go even higher and create even more, or you can have like another sort of like elevated piece over here, so it leaves you with lots of different sort of things you can sort of develop. But I really enjoyed this. You know, I hope you enjoyed it. I say I will be carrying on the theme. I'm probably going to do something a little bit different. I think I might do some elevated sort of like hilltops with trees as my next one. But as I say, if you do like these videos, please come subscribe to the channel, and tell your friends if there's anything that you think that they might like. But yeah, as I say, I've really enjoyed doing these videos, and yeah, let's say until the next time, I look forward to seeing you.